Oh, welcome, Michael Fors, to Liftoff. How are you today?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Where am I finding you?
We're in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, and it is a spectacular spring day today. So
There we
we're having a
go.
good time.
All right. Well, I'm glad I got you. Although I feel bad. I'm trapping you inside for a little bit of a conversation here. But for me to get the owner and inventor of the liquid jazz experience and the famous rocking decanter, I think I can make it all go down smooth.
I like that. All right, let's do it.
Well, listen, you started with a business plan. You didn't start with a business plan. You started with a Thursday night tradition, and it really captivated me, and it made me want to learn more about your story. Tell me about your Thursday night tradition, Michael.
Yeah, you're right. It just came about. There were no plans for anything. My wife and I were out with friends, and we asked him, oh, what are you doing this week? And Tony said, oh, we're pressing wine. His father has been making wine his whole life. He came over from Italy, and he said, we're doing the pressing on Monday night. It's like, why don't you come over? So I'm like, all right. So I go over, and it was such a nice evening. They're pressing the wine. We're sitting down. They have the charcuterie board out. We're drinking last year's wine and just squeezing the grapes, and the wine is just dripping out. And you're just tasting it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. So I asked him, I said, Tony, is there any chance, I could learn this? Is it tough to learn? I mean, I knew nothing about it. So he's like, yeah, and his dad was there, and Mr. Staffieri said, if you want to, there's still another week to get grapes because, you make it in the fall when it's harvest season. So I went to the local store. I bought 10 cases of grapes, and we went up to his house, and he took me through the whole process. We crushed it at his house. The primary fermentation was at his house. And then after we pressed it and we put it into the carboys, I took them home and just let them do the secondary fermentation at the house. And I ended up with a good batch that year. And like any wine, you never know until it's finished if it's going to be a good product. So the following year, I'm giving bottles away. I owned a business at the time, a retail store, and I'm giving stuff away. And a couple of customers are like, hey, we want to make wine with you next year. So I went out and bought some used equipment. And the first year was a major challenge. So I had no idea everything he went through before I got there and after I left. I just thought it was
The
all,
decanting and the bottling. Yeah.
yeah, and even just the prep work and
Yeah.
what you need. I mean, we were what should have taken us 2 hours took us 10 hours that first time because we had no idea. We ran into so many challenges,
Yeah.
but it was we had a blast. So and I would call Tony and call Mr. Staffieri and say, hey, I got a problem here. Like the first night, they said, okay, you crush the grapes. The next morning, you go down and you put the yeast in. Okay. So we crush them. We've got barrels all over the place of open must getting ready to start fermenting. So the next morning, I go down into the wine cellar and I open the door, and there has to be a billion fruit flies. I'm talking at least a billion. So I call him up and I'm like, Tony, I don't know what I did wrong. There's a billion fruit flies down here. He goes, oh, I don't know how. I wonder how they got out from under the covers. I said, you never told me I had to cover it. So there they were. So then we had fly strips hanging everywhere. So anyway, so we go into the first year. And then after the primary fermentation, when you're in the secondary fermentation, there's a process they call racking. And all that is we stick a siphon tube in there and you put it right down towards the bottom of the carboy, right above the sediment. And it's just a cleansing process.
Yep.
So you draw off the clean wine and put it in the other. So Kenny and Gary, the two guys that made it with me, were coming over. Kenny had a place up north. He goes skiing every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Gary happened to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday was his shift. So Thursday night was a good night for us to get together. So Tony came up, we're racking. Of course, we're sipping. And then another friend stopped in and was sipping. They go, oh my God, it's so much fun. Are you going to do this next week? And we're like, All right, yeah, we could, we'll do a few bottles at a time. Um, and then that's how the Thursday night. So we're in our 26th year of meeting on Thursday nights. Imagine
That's
that.
what I love.
Yep, and
That's what,
it's just people getting together. The wine, and that was part of the thought process of the wine and the decanting process. Is it's not about the wine. Obviously, that's just the conduit that gets us all
yeah,
together.
right.
So it doesn't matter what we're drinking, whose wine we're drinking, and we are not experts on wine. Our tasting, we get some people that come that are sommeliers and are very serious about the wine. And
Yeah.
we're pretty much, you take a sip of a bottle and it's like, oh, I like that one, or oh, I don't. And that's
With
our
all
level.
your Michael, with all your business experience, I have a hypothesis that I think founders have to personally feel a problem to solve it well.
All right, that makes sense.
Do you agree with that? And what was the problem you felt, and when did you know you had a real business?
I like that, and I agree with that 100%. It all came about because of the issue I was having, and it was on wine nights. If you're listening audience, if you're wine drinkers and you understand the decanting and the aeration process, the
Right.
decanting process is just when you're pouring the bottle of wine into another vessel, and then you
Yeah.
watch that little neck of the bottle, and if you see any sediment, you stop. Basically, that's decanting. You can decant into a 5-gallon bucket, and that's the decanting process. And then the aeration part. So what I would do on Thursdays is I would open a couple of bottles, 3 hours before we were going to get together, and just let it breathe. Let the negative gases escape,
Yeah.
the sulfite flavors and all that stuff. Let it escape. So then we'd sit outside, and you and I and two other people were sitting there having a glass of wine, chit chatting, and then a car would pull in, a car would pull in. And now I'm out of the stuff that I let aerate, and I had to go get another bottle, and it was the same wine, but it didn't taste the same because it
Uh,
didn't have that time. So
interesting.
I'm thinking there has to be a way. So I went online and I started researching, and everything I found was so aggressive with the wine. When Tony's dad, when he came to probably like the second or third wine night we had, Kenny, one of the guys we were making it with, all we did was stick a siphon tube into a carboy, draw it out, and just fill the glasses. That's how we were drinking our wine. No
Yeah.
opening bottles, no nothing.
Yeah.
So Kenny was filling Mr. Staffieri's glass, and you put your thumb over the end. Well, he was a little late, and maybe a sip spilled on the floor. And
Yeah.
Mr. Staffieri slaps his hand on the table and said, "If you don't respect the wine, don't make it."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Oh my God." And it was passionate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was,
Yeah.
but then I over the years I kept thinking about that. I'm like, he brought this from Italy. He came from Italy to America for a new start, and pretty much other than the clothes on his back, what he brought was the making of the wine. So every
Yeah.
year that tied him to Italy. And I think, you know what? I said, I'm going to respect that. So when I'm looking at these different ones, there's one that it sits on a little vibrating base and it shakes it all over the place. And there's another
Mhm.
one you drop a pill in it and it creates a vortex in there and it's whipping the wine all over. And I'm like, yeah, I just didn't like that. And then years go by, and we like to vacation on the Gloucester coast, Gloucester, Massachusetts. It's up on the North Shore, and it's kind of a rocky coast. There's a few little inlets that have beaches, and the place we stay, the Bass Rocks Inn, right, it's across the street, but they own the land on the ocean front.
Okay.
It's a little grass area. It has 4 Adirondack chairs there, and every year we go up. I bring my homemade wine. I put it in a
Yep.
plastic container. I go across with my plastic wine glass, and I just sit there and just enjoy. Well, this one day, it's beautiful. It's just enough sun to keep you warm. There's a lobster guy pulling traps out front. A sailboat goes by. A guy's fishing off the rocks. And I'm like, really? This is, one of those TV moments. And
Yeah.
then And then all of a sudden, the tide changed because it was slack tide. So it was just flat. And then the waves start crashing on the rocks.
Mm.
And I start smelling the salt air and the seaweed. And I'm like, oh my God, just that splashing of the water. It wasn't crashing like a storm. It was just, splash, splash. And it opened up the ocean. So I said, if I can have a gentle way to do the wine. So fast forward that winter. And again, it's funny how it fell into place. I'm walking with a friend of mine. We live near a river and it was cold. So the river was frozen except this one area. It was about 18 inches wide, 3 feet long, and it didn't freeze because the water was flowing over a series of rocks.
Yeah.
So I'm watching that go over, and there was some low branches there, and there were icicles from the mist of the water forming on the low branches. I said, my friend Johnny, I said, look at that. And he's like, yeah, okay, that's what it does. But I said to him, yeah, but if I find something where I can roll the wine over that's going to make it splash a little bit, it's going to open the wine up like the ocean did, the
Hmm.
splashing did in the ocean. So I know a guy who owns a sheet metal shop. So out of food grade stainless, I had to make this little prototype. It was just like this U-shaped thing, and the bottom had some ridges in it. And one wine night, there was 6 of us there. And I said, look, I have this idea. I want to try it. And we did it. And lo and behold, it worked.
Hmm.
So
It's kind
that's
of
how,
poetic.
yeah, it was so fun. And the
It's
whole
so it's
process,
poetic, but I'm going to come back to the idea of building a business, starting a company, being innovative. It you can't force it. You can't like become heavy-handed with it. You have to let it come into you, right? I mean,
yes.
do you feel that? Or
Yeah.
like you couldn't change the tides, you couldn't change the
Oh, yeah, right. Right. Yep. Yeah, it was, and
you
again,
had a Gloucester moment and it became your sort of your origin myth, right?
correct. Exactly. And when the prototype worked, I was actually just kind of happy with that.
Yeah.
And then we're using it now at wine nights, and people are like, oh my God, you should go, do something with this. And so again, now months go by, a year goes by, and I keep thinking about it. And then I
Yeah.
retired, and I'm like, I've had, like everybody, we all have a ton of ideas that we just let go by the wayside. And then the next thing you know, there's a computer out there that we didn't invent, that we
Yeah.
could have invented.
Yeah.
And, it changes our life. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. So I started looking. I found this launch company that I paid them, and they helped me come up with different designs, and we worked on names, and then from that point on, I got to a point where it's like, you know what? I'm doing it. So
And then you went and then you did the patent, right? Then you created a patent around the process.
yes, exactly. Yeah, we went. I met with a patent attorney. Great guy. I mean, he worked for Pratt and Whitney on the jet engine. So his big thing was
Jeez.
patent. Yeah, getting patents on the parts that they used in the engines, so that the competitors couldn't take apart an engine and use what they designed. So I brought him this, and when he told me his story, I'm like, okay, he's working on jet engines. I'm trying to make wine taste better.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never done anything like this. So he said, yeah, I'd like to take the journey with you. So we did it. And for the other people who are thinking of going for an invention out there, I'm going to plug the invention, the patent office.
Okay.
Uh, if you're over 65, you get a 40% discount, and you get expedited because so many
Wow.
people, yeah, so many people who are retiring
No
are just,
idea that that was the case. Well, now you're real though. Now, if you go to that step, you're like, okay, I'm committed. I'm going all in.
yes, yep. And that's what
Tell me
happened.
about give me the context now of the liquid jazz experience and the decanter.
Okay, so the whole process is, I mean,
Yeah.
I have one here by chance.
Yes.
Yeah, how lucky was that, right? That I had
Yeah.
one here, and I have a bottle of wine. So
Yes.
I'll give it a quick show.
Okay.
So the wine, and again, we don't really care what wine it is.
Yeah.
It's for us, it's just the enjoyment of the wine.
I guess the difference is you don't decant everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. So what I like to do, and I do it every time I run a bottle through the decanter, is I do the let me go. I pour a little bit off to the side
Okay.
because I like to see the change.
Oh, okay.
It's fun. So
That
when
makes
I'm doing a
sense.
show, I usually just leave about 25% in the bottle,
Okay.
because what happens is, um, unless you really taste the difference.
Yeah.
Now, this is actually right now the decanting process. So as I'm
That's a big
pouring,
decanter too.
yes, as I'm pouring, I'm watching right here on the bottle.
Okay.
And if I see any sediment, like there's a little sediment there, so I stop.
Okay.
So technically, that's the decanting process. Decanting
Yeah.
is done. Right now, what we're doing is we're aerating it. So we're opening it up and letting the negative compounds in there dissipate.
Okay.
So I've got my little timer over here. We have found, and all we do now is just slowly rock like this back and forth.
Rockabye baby.
Yep. Yep. So, and we found for like 95% of the wines that we've done, 4 minutes seems to be the lucky number.
Okay.
So just a slow rock like this for 4 minutes. And, when I'm out there doing the shows, it's funny, you get some people that are looking at that and they're going, it's so relaxing just watching the wine roll back and forth,
Which
and
is
then of
fun
course,
because that's what we think of with wine. It helps us relax, right?
correct. That's the whole, and again, that's why we went with Liquid Jazz Experience.
Yeah.
Um, how the name came, that's another story. I tend to be a little bit of a storyteller. My
Yeah.
grandchildren will tell you all about that. So we used to have a holiday party, a Christmas party every year, the Saturday before Christmas. And it grew into more of an open house. So we would have, 60, 70 people that would go through because we own businesses. My wife owned one, I owned one. So we just tell them, come up, have a drink and just. So our son was a saxophone major at the University of Massachusetts. So the first year I made wine, he brought out the sax quartet. So they're in the foyer playing Christmas carols as people were walking in. It was beautiful. So then they're playing. They stop, they take a break. So they're gone. And then our son was he liked big band and marching band. So pretty much the way the music was written was the way you had to play it. Because marching band, when they're on the field, you hit a certain note, the kids had to turn. And in big band, you hit a certain note, and now different instruments are coming in. So it was pretty critical. So they're playing, and they take a little break. They come back from the break, and now his friend Andy's playing guitar with them. His friend Ray's got a snare drum. He's keeping the beat with the snare drum. And now all of a sudden, they're not playing Christmas carols anymore, and the tunes are more upbeat and peppy. So Tony, the guy that taught me how to make wine, and my wife go up to Anthony, our son, and said, Anthony, what's going on? This is so not you. He said, well, during the break, we got into the homemade wine. And then one of the guys in the back says, we got into the liquid jazz. So that's how the music got jazzy, was because of the wine, which was the liquid. So that's how we came up with liquid jazz. So our logo is a saxophone pouring notes into a glass of wine.
That is perfect.
Yep. And then
I'm getting thirsty. Tell me, as you're doing this, what has surprised you most about bringing this to market? And I know you sell to restaurants and you promote a home host program. Which one adopted it faster? Which one do you see more?
the straight to the consumer, the homeowner one, they seem to appreciate a little bit more. The problem I'm having with the restaurants is the restaurants that wine is a big part of what they do.
Yeah.
and they like this because they use this. Um, they go to the table, they'll spend time with you and talk
Yeah.
about the wine and romance the wine a little bit, and they're willing
Yeah.
to take the time. Most of the restaurants, 4 or 5 minutes for a server in a restaurant is a lot of time.
Yeah.
They can get a lot of work
They
done.
restaurants, turn those tables, right?
Right. But we have a few around here where, your table is yours for the night. So, they don't mind spending that extra time with you.
Good.
So those people there, what they're using it for is kind of like featuring a wine that either they got a really good deal on and they want to turn some to turn it into cash, or a wine that they've had for a while and they want to move the inventory. So what they'll do is that'll be the liquid jazz experience wine of the evening. So the only way you get to use the decanter is if you use that wine.
Got it.
So it entices you to take that path. But that's been hard. It's been hard to get people to buy into that. When I do the shows, they're usually at a winery or at a wine shop or at a festival type thing. And when
Yeah.
people can taste the before and after, that's where I have my best success is when people can try the product.
I bet those wineries that you find, those especially the smaller ones can really embellish a project like this.
Yes. Yeah, they like that
So,
because they like spending time with the customer.
yeah, exactly. And plus you'll run a few different bottles and that'll help you build the business up. Michael, do you think of yourself as an inventor, an entrepreneur, a host? How do you view yourself?
Um, well, the inventor part I struggled with, but when I do the shows, a lot of times my daughter will come help me, and
Yeah.
she's proud of that fact, so she
Yeah.
promotes that. Um, I like the host thing. I'm more comfortable being a host.
Yeah.
I just love like the wine nights, the people that we have that just show up. Um, I started a book when we first started doing it, and I kick myself all the time that I stopped doing it. But like if you were coming, let's say, now we know each other, and you call up and say, "Hey, I'm going through Sturbridge. I'm heading to Boston, but I'm going through Thursday. How about if I stop in for an hour, just say hi and have a glass of wine?" Perfect. So with that book, you would sign that book the first time that you come. You'd sign it
Right.
and we have over 400 names in that book, and I haven't done that book in 10 years.
Oh,
It's
shoot.
it's so nice. Last week there was 15 of us that was sitting around. We were outside. It was cold. I mean, it was in the, low 40s, high 30s, but I got a fire pit and was sitting around the fire pit and just talking and laughing, and the range of people that are there is it's awesome. I mean, I know the dynamics of pretty much everybody that comes, but
Yeah.
the other people don't. And I see people talking with, newfound friends and stuff like
Right.
that. And it's like they would never talk to each other in the, because we stay away from obviously the two biggest things. We don't talk politics and we don't talk religion.
What about sports? What if I don't like one of those Boston teams?
Yeah, see, there aren't many people out there in the world that don't like the Boston teams.
Of course.
But you know what? And again, most of the people that come, I mean, because really they come dressed in everything. So you have the different hats, and like really a Mets hat.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
would
it's
definitely
funny
have to
because
show up. Yeah.
but everybody's there just to enjoy themselves. So we just start, and it all becomes a fun banter, which is very relaxing and very enjoyable.
And you see where I'm going with my questions, Michael. I'm trying to connect this to the entrepreneur and the startup experience. And I feel like there's a lesson in this for companies, even though I talk mostly about the tech world, right? SaaS and chips and software and all that good stuff, computers. But I feel like there's something about trying to make it more approachable, more friendly, more of a community thing whether you're talking about technology or wine.
Yeah, and that was my goal because that's where I'm the happiest. I enjoy that. I love learning about other technologies. All the years that I've been in sales and I had my own business, I never tried to compete with the person who knew more than me in the field that they were in. I was comfortable knowing that, like with you, with the chip world. I mean, I look at those boards sometimes, like, oh my goodness, how could I can't even comprehend how the first one was. It's like, I'm going to take a little solder and I'm going to stick
Yep.
this to this. And I'm like, really? But, I owned a paint store for a while and I could custom match a color just with my eye with playing with all the different pigments. And I'm thinking, this chip guy couldn't do this.
Yep.
So it's just, your world. So we try and sit, and when we get somebody who's kind of focused in what they do, really, we've gotten to the point where the basic core of the people, and the basic core is probably, 30 different people that come, not weekly, but, frequently. And then when someone new comes, oh my God, everybody's just picking their brains because we want to learn about something new and something different. And then obviously we share what we know. And now we all leave a little bit better off,
Yeah.
and we don't take anybody's world more serious than anybody else's. Even when we had heart surgeons and dental surgeons that come to wine nights, and they're talking about what they're doing, and when they're not grossing us all out, it's really interesting at what they do.
I love the jazz experience, man. Tell me what kind of lessons would you share when you talk to some people that are either sitting around the table or the fire, or they're students that bump into you? What kind of thoughts do you share with them about coming up with ideas and turning them into businesses?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was, you don't have to start big. You could start small. I started with that stainless steel thing. I had $25 into it just to prove that it worked. Find people that have like thoughts. Luckily, the guy that I was going to have make it, he liked wine. So we're like, oh, this is a pretty cool idea. So he put a little bit more effort, a little more heart into it than, an average person goes. Um, and just let it just grow naturally. And then if it gets to the point where you financially can do it, you can find people that can help you do it. Because I had no idea how to do this. And obviously now with Chat GPT and Google and stuff, you've got a lot more help now than we did in the past. But yeah, just try it. Take baby steps. That's all. I mean, I love Shark Tank. I mean, I liked it even
Yeah.
before I had the invention.
Yeah.
And you listen to them, and none of them jumped into anything. It was all just this slow grind. And then you reach that point where you have to decide, now I jump or I just let it go to the side.
I could see you taking this to Shark Tank or something, one of those types of programs. What kind of a question should I ask myself if I think I have an idea, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know really what that next step is, though. What should I ask myself, or how do I explore that?
Yeah, right. Is this going to be a hobby, or do I really want it to be a business?
Yeah.
I think that would be one of the key components of the decision. And ideally, start it as a hobby, because you can always turn a hobby into a business. But if you start with a business first, boy, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of doors.
Totally get it.
When you're in a room, there are way more doors that are closed than there are open.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. So, Michael, what's next for you?
I'm going to keep doing the shows. I mean, ideal situation. I'm at a crossroads, and it would be nice if there was somebody out there, one of your listeners, that I could partner with a little bit. I'm willing to give up shares. I have two children that are doing well and successful in their both career choices. So this is not
Right.
something that's going to be hand down for future generations. But I would
Yeah.
like it to continue. I know I have inventory, and we're slowly selling off the inventory.
Sure.
But it would be nice if there was somebody out there that liked the same thing, that understood the technology part.
Yeah.
Understood the the backdoor management part. I love this. I love going to the shows. I love doing the trade shows. I love meeting people,
Yep. It
all the
shows, man.
different personalities that are out there. And it's funny the buzzwords that some people grab. Like there
Yeah.
was this one guy, we were doing a show, my daughter and I, and we did this one guy kept coming over and he's really intrigued about it. And then our daughter said, "Oh, and he has a patent on this." It changed everything. He ended up buying one. He went from just a curiosity, but the patent, just knowing there was a patent on it, just got him to do that, got him to the next level, which was kind of cool. And again, the patent process, it doesn't have to be overly difficult. I mean, this guy was, when I tell people what he charged me to do everything that he did, they were just blown away. They said, that should have been $10,000, $15,000. It was way below that. I luckily found someone who was thought, he's in the technology world like you are the whole time. He's like, this is just a fun thing. Every time I go, we'd get together. I'd bring it. We'd have a glass of wine. We'd just sit back chit-chatting. Next thing you know, he's like, "Oh, well, I got a bunch of questions to ask you first." That was just, the business was secondary. It was just the friendship and the time spent and the camaraderie. And I mean, when you talk about my world and his world, we would never, ever connect had it not been for a bottle of wine.
Well, I'll toast
Oh,
you and the great run you've had. This has been a fun chat. The Liquid Jazz experience deserves to go on because we need more things that help us connect with each other and share experiences and share all kinds of things. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. And one of the things, Michael, we'll make sure we do as we distribute this recording,
okay.
make sure people know how to get in touch with you and learn more.
Please. Yes. Yeah. Obviously it's liquidjazzexperience.com is the website. And yeah, all your listeners, tell your friends, tell everybody, you
Stop
know,
by on the way to Boston when you're going to go see your next Celtics or Red Sox game, huh?
yeah, looks like, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the poor Yankees, they struggled in Tampa.
Oh well, we can't
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
we,
well,
we
it's
we
early.
can't worry
It's
too
early.
much about the Yankees this year. They'll be fine. Michael, thanks again. Great chatting with you.
Yeah. Appreciate the time.
My pleasure.